In the dim light before dawn on July 22nd, the winds began to howl. Not a whisper of warning, but a deafening roar that shook windows and tore into the heart of the night. This was no distant threat anymore. The typhoon had arrived. The coasts of Quang Ninh and Haiphong were the first to feel its fury. Gale-force winds exceeding 160 kilometers per hour, 100 miles per hour, tore across fishing villages and bustling harbors, uprooting everything in their path. Boats were hurled from the water, crashing onto concrete barriers like broken toys. Homes folded under pressure. Steel, wood, and water became indistinguishable in the chaos. Massive sea walls splintered. Entire blocks vanished beneath towering waves. What had begun as a weather alert had now transformed into an unrelenting nightmare. By sunrise, the once familiar coastlines were drowned under meters of seawater, and the silence of the storm's eye only deepened the dread. The winds ravaged the ports, tearing apart cranes, vendors' stalls, and homes made of wood and tin. Water surged inland, sweeping up motorbikes and market carts like paper scraps. Emergency responders waded through waist-deep floods, pulling people from balconies and rooftops, many clutching their children, too shocked to speak. As waves crashed over roadways and sirens blared through flooded neighborhoods, the storm unleashed its most tragic blow, not on land, but at sea. Just off Ha Long Bay, a tourist vessel named Wonders 58 carried 49 passengers and crew on what was supposed to be a peaceful excursion among limestone cliffs. Then came the wind. Without warning, hurricane-force gusts and hail struck, flipping the boat in moments. Survivors described chaos. People tossed into dark, churning waters, cries for help drowned by roaring wind. In one of Vietnam's largest maritime rescue missions in years, over 200 responders, 14 vessels, and dozens of search squads combed the sea. Only 10 people survived. 35 bodies were recovered. 4 are still missing. Every one of them Vietnamese. Families waited on shore, hoping, praying, grieving, but the storm wasn't done. As the eye passed and Hue moved inland, it seemed to gather strength rather than lose it. Hanoi, already hit days earlier by heavy rainfall, now faced the full wrath. Roofs weren't just peeled off, they were launched into the air. Glass shattered in office towers. Entire billboards were flattened like paper sheets. Wind gusts nearing 150 kilometers per hour, 90 miles per hour, knocked over rows of trees and sent debris flying through the city. One viral video showed a public bus crushed under a falling crane. Streets turned into rivers, with vehicles floating helplessly. Nearly 2 feet of rain fell in just hours. Entire districts were cut off. Power transformers exploded one after another, casting neighborhoods into pitch-black darkness. Schools, homes, even hospitals, completely offline. But rescue teams pressed on. By boat, on foot, however they could. Even as darkness fell, the storm kept evolving. It moved into the northern lowlands and mountain valleys, bringing with it winds over 130 kilometers per hour, 80 plus mph, and relentless rain. Villages in Tan Hoa and Tai Binh saw their rooftops shredded, homes ripped open to the sky. Tin and wood became shrapnel. Walls cracked. Livestock pens flattened. Floodwaters surged far beyond the coasts. Rivers overflowed, drowning rice fields and isolating entire towns in a brown sea of mud. In Lao Cai and Yen Bai, saturated hillsides collapsed in deadly landslides, roads vanished, Bridges fell, entire families buried beneath the soil. Emergency responders struggled to reach survivors. Washed-out highways and fallen power lines made access nearly impossible. In some villages, neighbors tied together makeshift boats from broken wood to reach stranded loved ones. This storm didn't just cause damage, it erased livelihoods. And it wasn't over yet. Even as the wind calmed, the silence was unsettling. It wasn't peace, it was the eerie calm of devastation. Boats lay in ruins, shattered along the shore. Markets were buried in mud, twisted corrugated metal dangling from telephone wires. Families wandered through debris, searching for relatives, clinging to photos, to hope. More than 400,000 people were forced from their homes. Entire communities were now shelters. In Ha Long, schools became emergency centers. In Hanoi, soldiers hand-delivered food supplies by boat. Across the entire north, people asked the same thing. If this wasn't the worst, what will the next one bring? For now, all anyone could do was survive and begin the long, painful road to healing. WIFA may have passed, but its imprint will linger for years in the torn-apart homes, the flooded schools, and the grieving hearts of those who lost everything. This wasn't just a storm. It was a life-altering tragedy, one that spared no one based on age, income, or location. A disaster so immense that even seasoned emergency crews were overwhelmed. Every life lost is a name, a face, a future that will never be lived. The days ahead are uncertain. Power must be restored, water sources sanitized, roads rebuilt. But perhaps the greatest challenge is invisible: the trauma left behind. Children cry at the sound of rain. Mothers stay awake at night listening for wind. Entire towns must now navigate not just physical recovery, but emotional survival. The storm tore open the vulnerabilities of a nation that, despite being no stranger to disaster, was never ready for this level of destruction. This is a call to the world. Climate change is not a distant threat. It's here, in the streets of Hanoi, in the hills of Lao Cai, in the broken families of Ha Long Bay. Vietnam will rebuild because its people are resilient, but they shouldn't have to do it alone. It's time for global solidarity, not just sympathy. To the volunteers, the emergency responders, the doctors and soldiers who never stopped working, you are heroes. To those watching from outside the storm's path, now is the time to act. Not tomorrow, not after the next disaster. If you are in Vietnam or anywhere along the Pacific Rim, stay alert. These storms are growing stronger, more sudden, more deadly. Don't wait to prepare. Talk to your families. Know your evacuation zones. Have a plan. And above all, listen to your local authorities. This was WIFA, but it won't be the last. Subscribe to Weather Unchained to stay informed, to stay safe, and to honor those who lost their lives, not just by mourning, but by preparing. Because nature does not wait. And next time, it may come faster than we expect.